Wrestling magazines are crucial, and I feel like today we kind of need them more than ever, because I remember when I was a kid and I would read Power Slam, and it shaped like the kind of fan that I became.
Magazines have been a fixture in the wrestling business since the 1940s. They've served as ongoing artifacts that capture the times and chronicle history as it unfolds. But the growth of the internet and an ever-increasing desire for instant gratification has brought this once booming industry to its knees.
The UK's Power Slam magazine, after being in business from the early 90s, has decided to shut its doors. The WWE magazine, all their publications, all their magazines have announced that they're done. Wrestler magazine, unfortunately, gone. Wrestling Review, no more, another one. Total Wrestling magazine, Tutto Wrestling magazine, most of the Japanese magazines, The Wrestler, Inside Wrestling, Wrestling Superstars, gone. No longer, gone. Can you believe it? Gone. My name is Bill Apter, and I've been in the pro wrestling magazine business since 1970.
My name is Keith Elliott Greenberg, and for 22 years I was on retainer for WWE's publications. It was Raw Magazine, WWF Magazine, and SmackDown Magazine, and I eventually attained the position of senior writer.
My name's Finley Martin. I've been involved in the wrestling magazine business since 1992. I started with Superstars of Wrestling, which I ran for 2.5 years, then launched Power Slam in July of 1994. Ran that until July of 2014, so now it's around 20 years.
My name's Kenny McIntosh. I started Inside the Ropes back in 2012 as a podcast, and then we grew to do live Q&A events. We've done them all over the UK and Ireland and in the US.
I've been in the wrestling business now for nearly 20 years. I've wrestled, I've promoted, I've been an agent, I've been an author, and I've been a magazine editor. The way to look at a magazine, it's a snapshot in history.
I think in the 60s and 70s and 80s, wrestling magazines played a very important role in promoting the industry. Realize at that point, we were not plugged in the way we are now. I didn't have cable television in Queens, New York until 1989. So if I wanted to learn about occurrences in other territories, I had to go to a wrestling magazine and read about it.
Magazines have always been so important to the wrestling industry because they allowed people to get deeper into the fandom, to really explore all the stuff that we love about pro wrestling. And I think a big part of that down the years has been the photography used and the amount of photography. It's one thing to have text that explains things that have been happening to you, but to get a visual representation of that as well through some of the great photography that we've had down the years, that really makes magazines stand out. That's why it's important.
When you picked up a wrestling magazine in the 80s or 90s, it was colourful, it was bright, it was vibrant. The characters in there were big, they were larger than life. And most of all, it was fun, and that's what wrestling's supposed to be.
As an example, I remember watching the Montreal Screwjob on TV, and if you're in the UK, you'll know the whole you had to skip to the last match because you only had time to watch that in the morning before you went to school. And Shawn Michaels beat Bret Hart, and I didn't have any idea what really happened. And I watched Raw the next Friday, and I had no idea what was going on. And then I bought issue 41 of Power Slam with Bret Hart on the cover. I quit, and I found out what was happening, and I got good, deep analysis. And I feel like, websites have got their place now. You can get the who's backstage at Raw and the click articles, but for long form analysis, magazines are what you got that from.
You can go on the internet and get your results and do everything, but there's nothing like holding a pro wrestling magazine in your hands, collecting it and going back to it and reliving everything right there in your hands.
Unlike the internet, magazines have a sense of weight, both figuratively and literally. They can be held, leafed through, smelled, felt, referred back to, collected, cherished, and displayed.
Magazines provide in-depth coverage, which you seldom find online, or at least the good magazines offer that. And I think that's the big difference between magazines and online services, websites. I mean, a lot of online content, it's just thrown out there without much thought or imagination. I mean, the whole purpose of that, I mean, this isn't really a knock on that, it's just the way it is. I mean, their purpose is to provide content, to have traffic, to get clicks. So the stories really have to be short and lightweight. I think magazines exist to provide more, and I think it's up to us as magazine producers to give people more than they can find on 100 websites for free.
The internet always asks for immediacy. It asks for the winner being the person who publishes the story first and not necessarily the person who's got the best take on it. So it was a chance for magazines, or a chance to just take a couple of steps back, take things as a digest, have a little bit more thought about them, and hopefully come to better conclusions that can be done in a split-second hot take.
But wrestling magazines today are very important. I don't think people read as much, and I believe there's a hunger to read real in-depth wrestling stories. Stories about this thing we all have passion for, and not just gloss over the details, and not just editorialize about what angles we thought worked, but learn about these people who are devoting their lives to entertaining us and learning about what goes into this craft. One of the things I really miss about living in this current era of social media is the excitement of walking to a newsstand and picking up a fresh off the press wrestling magazine. Opening up a real magazine with beautiful pictures and great stories and real stories. And I think that can only help to enhance an industry that, frankly, sometimes deserves some enhancement.
Anyone who's ever held a wrestling magazine knows why we need to keep them alive. It's the same reason people want vinyl. Like, there's nothing that beats that feeling of holding something, that physical thing that you could open and smell and leaf through, and you can read in-depth articles and bright pictures, and it's just, there's something magical about a magazine, and there's a million websites, you can find everything on the internet, but it's not the same. The magazines are such a pillar of our fandom collectively that for them to disappear would be a tragedy in many ways.
There used to be dozens of wrestling magazines on the shelves at any one time, but over the years these numbers have dwindled, with falling sales causing title after title to go under. With the print media industry on its knees and the internet providing a forum for those seeking immediate feedback, reviews, results, and news, can wrestling magazines remain important in the year 2020 and beyond? Some titans of the wrestling print industry refuse to let them die.
People are going to think that I'm mad for doing this, but I mean, we're in a recession, there's a pandemic, but I feel like this is the right thing to do for pro wrestling, and this is the right time to do it.
I get goosebumps when I think about this pro wrestling magazine project.
It's interesting if you look historically at what wrestling magazines were and could be. You see a line, it starts with Bill Apter, the granddaddy of wrestling magazines. Goes through me, who wrote for WWF's publications for 22 years, starting in 1985. And then you go all the way to Kenny McIntosh, who back in 2012 started the Inside the Ropes Q&As. This is real wrestling journalism, and I think this is our opportunity, and it's a group opportunity. People of multiple generations to really save wrestling magazines and pass that down to a generation that needs it.
I was involved in Power Slam for 20 years. I've been podcasting for Inside the Ropes for nearly 3.5 years. I've been writing for Inside the Ropes for more than 2 years. This feels like a natural extension, a natural progression of everything I've done prior to this point.
Bill Apter of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Finley Martin of Power Slam, James Dixon of Wrestle Talk, myself of Fighting Spirit magazine. That kind of knowledge, wrestling knowledge and publishing experience is unparalleled. No one can match it.
And the reason that these guys have told you about how much it means to them is because we are all getting together. And we are so proud to announce the debut of Inside the Ropes, the wrestling magazine, coming to you this September. If you told me 20 years ago that I would be spearheading a wrestling magazine that would have Finn Martin in it doing What's Going Down, or Bill Apter doing an Apter's Alley, or Keith Elliott Greenberg doing a colour commentary, I would never have... It's not even a dream scenario, because I just never thought that's what it could be.
It's to make wrestling fun again. It's to make you feel like you're 10, 11, 12-year-old picking up that magazine and get those same nostalgic feelings that you got when you picked up Power Slam, when you picked up WF magazine, when you picked up PWI, any of these publications that used to exist.
I'm glad now to have this opportunity to go back to storytelling, because what is professional wrestling? Why do we love it? It's the stories, and these will be the stories behind the stories. And I think every one of us are excited about that.
It sounds cliche and it sounds corny, but we need you, because without you, this doesn't work. And I promise you that we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that when you spend that £5 on a magazine, when you spend that money, that when it comes through the door, it is going to be a high quality, intensive magazine from people who altogether have almost 100 years experience in wrestling magazines.
I think Inside the Ropes magazine has assembled the greatest team of wrestling magazine journalists that's ever been put together.
This is the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling journalism. The people that we've got on this team, I am flabbergasted that we've been able to get these people together. And I think the reason that we've got these people together is because the Inside the Ropes brand is a trusted brand that the team believe in, and also we have a common goal, which is to create intelligent, smart content that fans want to read.
Bill Apter, he's been in wrestling magazine journalism for 40, 50 years. Hall of Famer. Finn Martin, who penned Power Slam, which is such an inspiration to me, such an inspiration to Kenny. Keith Elliott Greenberg, who's one of the chief writers in WWF magazine. We've got Brian Elliott, who is the editor of FSM magazine. Long-running publication, very respected, did a lot for the scene in the UK and worldwide.
So I've got really, really high hopes for this project, and I hope we can be around for a long time, telling the stories that deserve to be told.
Our team is so passionate, so dedicated, and we're all on the same page. We want this to work. We need magazines to exist.
It's up to people like me and the other people on the staff, of course, to keep it alive. It's up to you to support it.
The more that you talk about it, and the more that you share it, and the more that you pick up the copies, the more it's going to help us to continue to deliver it and make it grow and get bigger interviews and better content.
You might be reading about modern wrestling, but we'll present it in a way that's fun, that's exciting, that's colourful, that's bright, that is entertaining.
It's really simple. What we need is for you to support us. If you are a lover of pro wrestling magazines, if you're a lover of Inside the Ropes, if you're a lover of Power Slam, if you're a lover of Finn Martin or Brian Elliott or Keith Elliott Greenberg or Bill Apter, anybody.
It's a tradition, and it's up to us, all of us, to keep it alive.
It's a huge risk. People have left jobs, people have invested personal savings to make this thing work. We're putting everything on the line for this because we believe in it, we're passionate about this project.
We need you to help preserve a vital pro wrestling tradition that carries over 70 years of illustrious history.
And you can help us out by subscribing to the magazine. You can go to InsideTheRopesMagazine.com and get a subscription straight away. When this magazine comes out in September, you can make sure the first issue comes straight to your door. We are so excited to bring you this magazine, and we feel that this is the chance to make wrestling magazines successful again. So go to InsideTheRopesMagazine.com, sign up today, and be with us from day one.